Okay, welcome back, everyone. This is session 2 of Cthulhu Dark, The Black Drop. I am David, he, him pronouns, and I just want to get started with a quick reintroduction of characters. And when you introduce your character, maybe just give a quick overview of something that stood out to you about the last session. And then we will go ahead and get started. So, Jason, I think we'll start with you.
All right, I'm Jason. Excuse me. I'm Jason. I use he, him, and I'm playing Olivier, who uses he, him. And he is a Frenchman. He's spent his life as a sailor in the South Seas. And he was very suspicious of the people we ran into on the Kerguelen Islands, and ended up sleeping in a tent which was lit on fire in the middle of the night, and threw a marlin spike through the leg of one of the assailants.
Fantastic. Let's go over to, I'm just going to go kind of counterclockwise around the Zoom screen here. So Brandon, can you go next?
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Brandon. I'm playing Dr. Harriet Adams. She, a naturalist, specifically an entomologist, but she dabbles in many other things and is generally adventurous. And the most salient thing that I remember is her waking up from a terrible nightmare to find one of the occupants of the house having pointing out sharp scissors at her neck. And at this point, I think she is sufficiently terrified of what she doesn't know that she is likely to take some drastic measures.
And last but not least, Nicholas.
Hi, I am Nicholas, he, him, and I am playing Johnny Redclaw, he, him, a private investigator who was doing kind of like a genealogical investigation and had probably the easiest mission ever, or the easiest investigation ever, until they went to sleep and everything was lit on fire and blood was everywhere and people were being stabbed. And now it's gotten very complicated.
And so it has. Let's go ahead and open with a scene that I'm picturing is happening maybe the following dawn. If there is anything that people want to do kind of immediately following the conclusion of last session, maybe we can narrate that via flashback. But I want to start by just kind of setting the scene as the gray sun begins to rise over the otherwise cloudy and miserable Kerguelen archipelago. It hasn't stopped raining, although it has lightened up. The wind, however, has not, and you find yourselves continually chilled to the bone, despite whatever warm clothing you may have carried with you. The entire settlement at Port Couvreau has burned to the ground. And to briefly summarize your assessment of damages conducted early in the morning, Claudette Petit, who you may remember, she is quite dead. She appears to have had her throat slit in the night prior to the assault. I see that we have a veil on harm to children, but we'll just say that Adele's baby, Georgette, is also quite dead, and it appears to have been done so intentionally. You will remember that Pamela took scissors to her own throat, or rather sheep shearing shears. And you will also recall that Adele has taken off into the wilderness with a revolver. And that just leaves the three of you, as well as Pamela's daughter, Leon, who has taken a marlin spike through the calf and is absolutely not going to be walking anywhere. Now, with that said, I think that the session will also open with the sound of a horn blast down the coast. Some kind of ship has arrived. It's strange. You weren't expecting the Austral to come back so soon. And if it was coming back, you would expect it to arrive at Port Couvreau. So you're not entirely sure what might be happening down the coast. Wherever it is in the opposite direction of the Black Stone that you were informed of during the last session. So you have a choice to make here, not the least of which is what to do with Leon. So I'll start with Olivier. What you thinking?
Well, I think we see Olivier holding his crucifix over two graves that he's finished, digging and filling, or maybe more than two, I guess. At this, let's see, it was three dead bodies, right? So I guess three graves. And he's saying a little prayer, and maybe Leon is bundled up with a ropes around her, next to the burned down tent nearby.
What do we see Harriet doing?
Well, before the ship makes its sound, Harriet is sitting outside, warming herself in front of a small fire that is largely made of pieces of driftwood, and into which she is tearing sheets from a book, and tossing them just one after another calmly into the fire. And she's, as she's doing so, she's calling out the page numbers. 76. That goes. Terror. 78.
And Johnny, how about you?
I think Johnny is trying to talk with Olivier while he's doing cross stuff and taking care of people, and saying, basically, you remember those pendants that they have. I'm sure that that's related to this large object that they were talking about. And you still think that that is somehow related to them not being right?
Yeah, something wrong. The color of the sky, the color of actually that scientist woman had the same color eyes, that blue. It's unholy and wrong. I think I'm gonna go over to Leon and say, I destroyed her pendants. I'll say, what are the pendants? What are they? Really, the truth.
She mutters, they are a gift, so I'm told. A gift from our God, the one who sleeps within, further inland, but not for long. They connect us to it.
And now that I've destroyed yours, what's your fate?
The same as yours. Everyone will die soon.
I think I saw some more of them in that workshop. Is that workshop burned down also, I assume?
The workshop has burned down, but there was the metal lockbox. It did survive the flames.
I'll go and try to dig through the embers and whatnot and see what I can find over there.
You would be able to obtain the lockbox. There would be no need for that. And if you choose to do so, you can, with some amount of effort, pry the thing open. And if you do so, out will spill fistfuls of crystals that have been picked up along the islands, coasts, inland, just big big handfuls of these things just spilling out. As you handle so many, you very quickly begin to feel an vague sense of paranoia and unease. There's something deeply wrong with just touching these things.
I'll start smashing all of them then.
Leon looks on distantly. You know that won't stop anything. There's nothing that can be done to stop anything.
Got to think of our immortal souls.
She thinks about this for a moment. I don't know if those are safe either.
Olivier, I think we have to go to the source of this. And I take the gun that I have and deal with it directly.
Dr. Adams, what do you think?
I think that I think we have two choices. We can run from this, and then I think we will be tormented by it for the rest of our lives. Or we can try to get to the bottom of this, in which case our lives may well be short. But there is a possibility.
Well, I think
that
I heard
we may know closer.
I heard a ship down. You know, you heard the.
I did too. Perhaps they saw the fire, but they didn't come here. That's strange. Forgive me, I'm a little out of sorts this morning.
Olivier, I think it occurs to you at this point that you have a bit of a choice over what you wish to do here. You have, of course, the so-called black stone that was mentioned during the last session down the coast inland, and you also have the ship's horn in the opposite direction. What do you think you would like to do?
And the Adele, I think it was her name. She ran off into the night, right? Is that right? Is it her name Adele?
Yes.
Yeah. So she's unaccounted for. Look, whatever we do, we're going to need some sort of supplies and some sort of shelter. I think we should head down the beach and see what kind of ship has arrived.
I'm inclined to agree.
And then from there,
and with that, I toss the rest of the book on the fire. Wipe my hands.
Johnny, how about you?
Should I make a roll?
A roll to do what exactly?
I'm burning Jacoyo's manuscript.
suppressing mythos knowledge. Yeah.
Yes.
Mythos knowledge.
Yes, I think that qualifies. Let's have you go ahead and do that. And if you roll under your current insight, you will go down.
No.
Good luck.
I had a feeling that was
Yeah.
There's a certain inevitability to some things. So Harriet gets up and says, well, I still have, I never did unpack my bag. I still have some of what we brought. Snatched from the fire.
So I'll kind of pull up Leon and say, so Johnny, do you want to go with us down the beach and see if we can find something? Or are you intent to go inland and find this black rock, whatever it is?
Well, the black rock is down the beach in the other direction.
Right.
It's not
I think there's
inland.
a third option right here. I think that she was talking about inland being where her god is.
Yes, but isn't it strange that there's a boat come?
I think we should check that out first.
Let's do that and proceed from there. Perhaps we will learn something.
It's a short travel, maybe a kilometer or two down the coast. The terrain is relatively flat, but by no means enjoyable to walk on. It's so rocky and loose. Your ankles fly out from underneath you whenever you put too much weight on any given stone. But without too much difficulty, the three of you, by the way, Leon, leaving her at the port?
No, I was going to bring her along.
Okay, you will support her as she kind of limps along behind you. The four of you round a bend, and in the distance you can see a small, weather-beaten fishing ship, kind of scuffed up against the shoreline. In front of it, you see three people, grown men, middle-aged, with the exception of one who appears to be in his early 20s. They appear to be in the midst of a rather informal funeral service. They've dug a haphazard grave, and one of them seems to be officiating. A single one of them carries a rifle, and most notably, you can see that the fishing ship in question is emblazoned with the flag of Nazi Germany. Unless you make efforts to avoid being seen, it will be very easy to spot your approach.
Say, Johnny, let's play this cool.
This is during the 30s, yes.
37.
37, yeah.
37, yes. So no one's at war yet. Germans, how strange.
Are they in uniforms or are they just, sailors?
No, it's just this red flag with the
right
swastika, right?
Well, I think it's worth noting one of them, the one with the rifle, I believe, is in fact bedecked in very proper black SS attire. The others are not, but the one with the rifle, he seems to be rather zealous, creepily so. The way he looks about and darts his eyes around and grips his rifle, even though at this point it doesn't appear that he notices you.
So I tell the others.
I don't think we're going to get supplies here.
Why shouldn't they help us?
Maybe we can help each other. But I did hear a radio message before we arrived. Some Germans, they were talking strangely. They were saying goodbye to their families and friends. So
perhaps these people know more about that.
Yeah. Does the ship happen to say Tenerife on the side of it? That was the name of the ship that we heard in the transmission.
As a matter of fact, it certainly does.
Well, there we are. They must have had a disaster of some sort.
Right.
Or at least someone died. They did not choose to bury him at sea. We should go ask.
Yeah.
Johnny's definitely taking up the rear, doesn't feel great about this,
So yeah,
but also doesn't want to be alone on an island.
right. I'll I'll have Johnny, take over supporting Leon, and I'll take my hat off as I approach and I say, um, hello, we're coming from up the coast. Can we help you at all? In French.
Hmm. The one with the rifle briefly points it at you, but upon seeing that you have Leon with you, lowers it and defers to the elder man of the three who was in the midst of officiating this funeral. I think we will sort of cut ahead, and you have been welcomed into their camp. It's three of them, plus a grave. The three of them introduce themselves respectively as Dr. Walter Schneider, who says that he is essentially in charge of the current expedition. There is additionally a young boy, probably 20. I mean, boy is probably the wrong word for it, but a young man who they refer to as the kid. He goes by the name Ludwig Muller. And then the man in the SS uniform goes by the name Thomas Faber. I think that might be the German pronunciation.
Yeah, Faber.
They're extraordinarily interested in what you might be doing out here. And Faber will additionally mention, how did you get her? He says, motioning with his rifle to Leon.
Have you met her before?
Her people killed him, he says, motioning with his rifle to the grave.
She has taken leave of her senses. Her family tried as much to hurt us last night, and we were left fortunate to escape with our lives and the soundness of our bodies.
Every last one of them has taken leave of their senses, Thomas says, adjusting his uniform. They're all mad.
They did not all seem so, but I wonder if you might not be right. You said, Dr. Schneider, if you'll excuse me, that you are here on an expedition.
Dr. Schneider has been listening up to this point, and he slouches back against the Tenerife and massages his temples morosely. Yes, that is correct. He seems deeply sad.
It is not going well. In answer to your question, we are here for a variety of reasons. I am a naturalist and came here to catalog some of the nondescript plant and animal species before civilization leaves the Kerguelens. And my companions here, one was as a sailor who was charged with packing up the port facilities, which alas is no longer possible. And the other was here performing an investigation on genealogical purposes. I believe a will is involved. The question is whether the deceased had living relatives that might be on the island.
And you're absolutely correct. They're all mad.
Yes. She's spoken very lucidly and calmly about terrible things. But it is what her family did. Her mother tried to kill me before taking her own life.
Terrible things and fanciful things.
Yes. And She clearly doesn't understand how deranged her the things she says are. I take it that Dr. Schneider, that your expedition has met with difficulty. I'm so sorry.
Dr. Schneider seems a bit cagey to speak further about his expedition, but if you would like to try to massage more of an answer out of him, you're welcome to roll.
I would, and I think as I'm a scientist, it falls within my natural purview. So I'm going to add the second time. And of course,
that is a 6. No need to roll an insight roll just yet. Although this does get you very close to possibly maxing out your insight. But you'll get everything that you could possibly need to know. I mean, with a 6, that gets you everything you need to know and a little bit more. And a little bit more is what you're going to get. How exactly do you phrase your questions to him, or what is it that you say to him before he begins to explain the purpose of the expedition in?
I say we have even in our brief time here, we have already heard such strange things about the island and such that leads me to believe that there may be a great deal here that we do not understand. And it seems to me that by pooling our expertise that we might make something of that rather than be simply saddled with the wretched circumstances that has brought us both to this point.
Well, I have nothing to lose, he tells you. But first, is your relief coming in anytime soon?
2 weeks.
Very well then. You're stuck here until this is over, and then some. Well, you might as well know what you've gotten yourselves into. The 3 of us, plus our companion, he says, sort of sarcastically, the 3 of us are members of the Black Drop Society. It is an old German occult society. We go back to the 1700s, predating the current regime in Germany. To put it simply, there is something terrible lurking within these islands inland. And in the year 1772, it was awoken. And every 30 years, it must be put back to sleep, or else it means quite literally the end of civilization as we know it. A dark god lurks within a stone temple at the foot of Mount Lyall, some days' march inland. And unless a very specific ritual sacrifice occurs every 30 years during the occultation of the planet Venus, then it will emerge, and that will be it.
You astonish me. But I cannot think of a reason why you would create a story about this. And I confess that I both myself and that I have had, I think I have dreamed of the end. And I am not given to such dreams. Perhaps it is the proximity of this thing's wakening that is giving us these dreams. That would make sense, right? Such a thing, if something were powerful enough to bring about the end of civilization, it would it would make itself manifest even before it woke.
Sacrifice? What kind of sacrifice are you talking about?
Well, I wish I could tell you that it was a pleasant one, but I'm afraid it's not. You see, originally 5 of us came on this expedition. You will see that there are currently 3, he says, motioning to his companions. The plan is very simple. We arrived with a diadem, a crown of sorts, constructed of crystals, which I imagine you have had some contact with. Crystals harvested from this very island. They're holdovers from the ancient empire of Lemuria, which perhaps you, Dr. Adams, may have some familiarity with. In order to put this dark god of the black stone to rest for another 30 years, we must take the diadem, proceed to the temple on the slope of Mount Lyell. We are then tasked with saying our final goodbyes, drinking sedatives. I then don the Lemurian diadem and summon the god of the black stone. When the foul thing surfaces, it is my job to hold it in place with the blood of my friends, and yes, that means all of us, except for Mr. Mueller, are to die. Mueller will take the diadem back to Germany and will return to lead the expedition, as I am now, in 30 years' time. Now, there's just one problem with that, he tells you. You'll notice that I said 5 companions. There are 3 of us here. One is dead, and the other has betrayed us. He has escaped and made off with the diadem. And if we do not find him, we are all dead, and the rest of the world is too.
I kind of give Johnny a side eye, like
I lean in and whisper,
crazy.
these guys are as crazy as the other ones.
Yeah, let's play it cool though.
Are you kidding?
Yeah,
They want to kill 2 of us.
and they're
They
gonna
talk
do
about
it.
they talk about dying themselves.
Right.
I have been around people who are insane, and they do not speak the way the Dr. Schneider does.
No offense, Dr. Adams, but you don't seem quite right yourself these days, these last few hours.
I had a shock last night, a rather big one, and I don't believe I've been raving since then. It's just that I've had to adjust my understanding of certain things in a very radical, rapid, and unpleasant way. Do you feel otherwise?
There's a lot, it's hard to explain, but we shouldn't be listening to
fact-
this raving.
Our hosts from last night burned their houses to the ground after trying to kill us and then took their own lives. If you can give to me a mundane explanation for that, then
People
that
go
would be-
crazy on these islands. They're
they don't.
all alone under this gray sky.
They
day
don't.
after day.
They don't go crazy suddenly from one day to the next. No one does unless they've had an awful traumatic shock. These people seemed normal, inviting, with one exception, who was clearly touched, but the rest were kind and warm and receptive and gave no sign whatsoever that they were even perturbed. And then that evening, They tried to murder us, destroy their houses, kill themselves.
How does Leon respond to this whole conversation? I'm curious. When the Germans are talking about what their plan is and whatnot.
She mutters, everything he says is true. The only difference is that he's wrong. You can't stop it. You can't stop the thing. And I think Dr. Adams, given that you did roll a 6, and that gives you a little bit more information than your worldview might be happy including, I think that you will, although granted, I think you've kind of arrived at this conclusion on your own, you will be met with this strange, intuitive, transcendent knowledge that every word that Dr. Schneider speaks is utterly and disappointingly true.
I believe Dr. Schneider, gentlemen, and I think that existence may hinge upon our willingness to cooperate with him. I wish I could blandly and easily scoff, but I can't.
Well, if your mind's set, I told Captain Louis I'd keep you safe.
We must at least, we have to go forward, I think. We cannot go back. We cannot, if we stand apart from this, then we are complicit. Everyone needs to make their own decision, of course. But Dr. Schneider, I say, speaking up, I believe you and am willing to help you as much as I can. So that makes 3.
And I assume, Dr. Schneider, you've been to this temple maybe 30 years ago, if I understand this whole thing that you do?
30 years ago, I was in Mr. Mulder's position, he says, again motioning to the kid who looks upon you all with pale fear.
And what did you see? What they call it a god. What is it?
I shudder even before I hear a word of the answer.
Something ineffable. Modern peoples would call it less of a god and more of a force of nature. It's not a god so much as a distortion of everything we hold dear, everything we understand. It's virtually impossible to put into words. It's this jagged, high-pitched keening, this invisible, smashing, iridescent, monolithic. I tried to see it, but I just looking at it is almost too much to bear.
Well, if what you say is true, and this is the only way to deal with it, then we have to. I'm not convinced yet, but I will join you for now.
Well, what we need is the diadem. We are done for without it. Our meteorologist, Ulrich Buchner is his name, has taken off with it. He has lost his sense of purpose and responsibility, and he is evidently perfectly fine with all of civilization coming to an end if it will mean he might save his own skin, which he will not. We need to find him. hopefully.
Where shall we begin?
Well, I don't suppose you've seen a boat, our skiff that we used to be attached to the Tenerife. He's taken off with it.
No.
No, not a sign of another craft. We would have remarked upon it because these are not the people who stay here are not seagoing folk. So there were no boats whatsoever. Save, not even the ship's launch that brought us to shore went back to its parent.
Well, then the only option is to proceed along the coastline until we come upon the skiff, and that must be where he's disembarked.
The only feature that we have heard of from our erstwhile hosts was this area of, what did they call it? Black stone along the beach. Did Ulrich give any indication when he stole the diadem as to, did he leave behind any writings? Had he said anything before it that might give you to understand where he would go with it? He cannot, it beggars understanding that he would steal this and simply try to hide out here at the end of the world, in one of the most desolate, and uncivilized places here, and hope to survive in the long term. So therefore, would he not go to the site hoping to, did he hope to control it? What's, you knew him.
Might I get you to go ahead and roll again to see how much you're able to figure out from this?
I think I'm just rolling a single die on this because I don't think I have any special knowledge. Just a 2.
You can add your insight die and roll again.
You're a bad man. I think I shouldn't do that.
Well, keeping it to, Dr. Schneider will say, he just said he was going to lie low until this all blew over.
It never stops blowing over in this place.
I know the geography. There's nothing that way, he says, motioning further down the coast. He went probably where you folks came from, but...
Well, let us go further up and see if he made for that area with the black stone.
I'll ask Leon. I'll say, where would he have gone? Where has Adele gone? Where,
if
I bet you know.
Yeah, I said to Adele, if you're hiding, if Adele is hiding, why is she doing so if death is inevitable?
I think Leon, at this point, is probably able to tell that her goals are at odds with yours. So I think you would need to roll to see how much you're able to coax out of her.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of an additional leverage I might have. Not that I need it, but maybe just thinking narratively, what would yeah. Can't think of anything, so I'll just roll. Yeah. I probably don't have any special skill either, but I'll include my insight die. I'm only at 3. 2. And when you include your insight die, you just re-roll, but you take the risk of getting your insight up. Is that how that works?
Yes, you rolled a 2 high, but insight was not the highest. So if you'd like, you can re-roll that. And
just the same 2 dice. Okay.
Yep, you can re-roll the same 2 dice, but if insight comes up high, then
you can re-roll them as many times as you want. It's just if the insight, every time the insight die comes up higher, you get an insight roll.
Right. I'll re-roll. 4. I'll stay with that. That looks pretty good.
Sure. Now, what is it that you wanted to get out of Leon?
Where would people have run to? You know, whether it's Adele or Buchner or Bulchner. Um, you know, where in this island would they go? What would provide them shelter?
Well, one of two things has probably happened to him, she says. If he has made his way towards the mountain, he's probably been caught and killed. There are more of us near the mountains. So, if he is alive, he's most likely in a cave somewhere, cowering. It does occur to you that there are seaside caverns, things like that, kind of worn out of the side of cliffs and things like that.
Okay. So I'll suggest to the Germans then that we maybe sail along the shoreline, and you know, if you got binoculars, you know, we can scan the shore and look for a cave or something where he might be. Maybe some smoke. Have a fire.
Well, we have nothing left to lose, Schneider says. Johnny, what are you doing here, if anything? Despite everything, Leon continues to glance at you.
I think yeah, I think I'm okay with just kind of following the plan as laid out for this chapter. I don't know what to make of those glances, but she's obviously crazy. I don't know that I can get much out of her, so.
You know, I will say to you, maybe as we're boarding, if we're all going onto their ship, I'll say, you know, I think as we're sailing along, you and I should try to, you know, see if they've got other weapons and stuff on this ship, because at some point these Germans are going to turn on us. Whether it's this ritual, they need the blood of 5 people, whatever that gobbledygook was all about. I don't want to be one of those 5 people.
I mean,
I know
I
that
got a gun.
I know that the French and Germans don't like each other very much, but why do you suspect these particular ones?
Because they're crazy. And even if they're not crazy, they come here every 30 years and kill 5 people to some dark god.
They come here every 5 years and in order mostly to die.
30 years.
Themselves every 30 years. You don't see the difference there? At any rate, I can't tell you what to think.
Look, yes, those women had gone crazy, but those blue gems, there's something wrong about them. But that's a long ways away from end of the world demon monster. It comes out every 30 years.
I would be a skeptic with you if it wasn't for the fact that Dr. Adams, you and I, we can't share dreams, and yet we were both there. Something's not right.
Yes, and furthermore, Leon's story and Dr. Schneider's story are disturbingly similar for 2 people who, as far as I can tell, have never met. They both talk about a god, or a thing they call a god, waking and killing everyone.
So, Olivier, what if it's true? What if you make it there and you see the horror? What will you do?
I guess no one knows that.
Yeah, look, Dr. Adams, I said I'll go with you, but we'll see what we see. But we might as well be well prepared. And like I said, I don't want to be a
I
sacrificial lamb.
I hope that it's whatever they were imbibing that was presenting those sights.
and our dreams, Johnny. What did we
That's-
imbibe?
That's the problem. That's the problem.
So it will be for nothing, one way or the other, if we cannot find this Ulrich.
Right.
So
Okay.
what I would like to have happen here is maybe Johnny, as you folks take off on the Tenerife and begin to scout along the edge of the coast, perhaps you can make a roll to see if you notice anything. And I remember, Olivia, you said you were curious about weapons and things of that sort.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that you would need to make a roll to know that on boards, I mean, they're kind of on everyone's person. Moeller and Thomas Faber are in possession of military rifles, and Schneider is in possession of a MP40 submachine gun.
Okay.
And Olivier, actually, David, I think I have two guns. I am a private investigator, and I can't imagine that a private investigator goes out without a handgun of his own. And I picked one up from the gal who ran in with one. So what I'd like to do is hand Oliver the one that I acquired and take up my own personal handgun.
Sure.
Okay. So it's like, if this makes you feel better, you can use this.
Sure.
But
If
I'm going to tell you right now, they have us out armed.
and the only one who has threatened us is Leon.
Wow.
She said, remember what she said about Ulrich? That if he hid in the high country, then her people would have found him and killed him. So I think we may be very glad to be with heavily armed men.
So I will roll with my insight die as I look upon the coast, straining to try and see a signal of smoke, a glint of some glass, anything that could be a sign of the person we're looking for.
And private eye seemed like it'd be pretty good at this kind of thing.
Oh, does that sound like a third die?
Yeah,
This
you
is
can,
kind of.
you can roll 3 if you'd like.
I'm gonna roll a third die. I already rolled 2. So what I propose is I roll one more die and don't count it as my insight die.
Okay.
And your insight die is a 4.
That
My
works
insight's
for
a 4. And that's a 6.
me. Okay.
But you got an insight roll anyway.
You do have an insight
Yeah.
roll anyway. And by the
But
way,
you got a 6.
yes, and Harriet, by the way, I still remember that 6 you rolled. I've kind of done the whole put that on a shelf thing that will come
Yes,
into play
I'm
at a more dramatic time. But yes, we'll just go ahead and I'll put yours on a shelf too, Johnny. I think that you will make notice of a blustery tent, half soaked with seawater, tucked into the side of a seaside cave some number of kilometers down range of your position back in Port Couvreau.
I let out a shrill whistle and say, over there it is.
There is an unusually large number of seabirds circling it. Skuas. Bastard little creatures.
That's not a good sign.
Not for
No.
Ulrich.
So I should roll one more d6. Is that correct?
Let's have you
said you
roll
would
one more
shelter.
for your insights. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it will come along shortly, I'm sure. The lot of you are easily noticeable if Ulrich is in fact there and conscious. So how do you propose, Olivia, you're the sailor of the group, how do you propose making your landing? Are you going to sail right up to the tent, or are you going to land some ways down and try to make a more stealthy approach? What do you think?
I would say that since we got a 6, maybe we got the jump on them. So I would say, yeah, let's land, half a kilometer away and work our way around, on the shore. That's what I'd suggest. But I say I have a feeling we're gonna find a dead body there.
Well, as you approach, you do. But it's not Ulrich. It is the body of what appears to be a man in his probably 50s or so, kind of a fatherly looking fellow. The man is long dead. He is flat on his back, having evidently fallen from a very great height. There is a great cliff side above you that spans up many, many, many yards and then lands just on beach rock. His head has hit the ground. His back is evidently quite broken, and his eyes have long been eaten by the seabirds.
I frisk him for any identifying information.
You're not likely to, well, you're not going to get what you would call identification off of him, but it's apparent by his lack of identification that he carries on him that he must be one of the colonists. But it's at this point that you hear a rustling in the tent deeper in the cave, someone turning over in their sleep and muttering and wailing and evidently having some kind of nightmare.
That's what that is.
Draw the gun, make eye contact with Olivier, and say, "You ready for this?"
Yeah, and I'll turn to the SS guy. I'll say, I bet that's your companion.
All right.
Don't hurt him if you don't have to. He has his part to play.
Schneider will let you know that he definitely wants him alive. Obviously. Who's going to try to get into the tent?
I was trying to pass the buck on to the Germans.
Yeah, if they just kind of awkwardly stand around, eventually Johnny will make his way over there with the gun drawn. But this is their colleague. Wouldn't they go into like capture him mode?
Yeah, that's and I think that's what they'll do unless one of you jumps in. What happens is they send, of course, Thomas, and he approaches with his rifle, prods the lump in the tent through the canvas, and you hear immediately this sort of cry of alarm and utter fear. This man screams in a broad, sort of brawling sort of voice. He is thunderously drunk, utterly despondent, and shouts, "No, get away, get away, get away." And he begins to kind of try to fumble his way out of the tent. He's not a hard person to capture. The difficult thing is that as he emerges from the tent, he carries with him None other than the Lemurian diadem that Schneider mentioned before. He is absolutely piss drunk by the look of him, and the diadem is unbelievably fragile. He screams at the lot of you, "I'll smash it. Don't think I won't smash it." As he slips and kind of backs on, kind of pushing himself back with his legs deeper and deeper into the cave.
Herr Bushner, what would that advantage you? That diadem is what is keeping you alive right now. You preserve that, and you will see tomorrow's sunrise. But if you smash it, what earthly reason do these people have for not revenging themselves on your betrayal?
Let's have you roll to see how well this gets through as we do some hostage negotiation.
I'll pull out my crucifix. I'm gonna try to cooperate and help. So I'll pull that out and I say, I swear to Jesus Christ that I won't let them hurt you. Let's go easy. So we both roll, and it looks like we take the highest result.
Yes.
So I don't think I have any special. I'm just gonna roll one now.
Okay, Harriet coming in strong with the 2.
Do we re-roll? Olivier, do you want to re-roll with an insight then?
Well, I think
I'll go ahead and do it. Yeah, I'll add an insight and re-roll.
I mean, I will jump in and say that I think this would be interesting if there was the possibility of failure. So, I mean, Olivier, could you just roll one more die, and we'll say it's a failure die, and if it is higher than a 2, then maybe a re-roll is indicated here.
Okay.
Never mind.
One.
No. Yeah. Low rolls were getting out of the way early. So I think then he staggers to his feet with shaking hands, almost clearly fully expecting to die here.
If I may narrate it then.
Oh, by all means.
I think I approach him very slowly and carefully. I'm obviously unarmed, and I'm in between, the guns and him. And I get to, to within arm's reach, and I say, "Please, it's the only way." And I hold out my hands for the diadem.
And given that our highest roll ended up being a 2, I'm guessing maybe the Germans shoot him or hit him in the head or something.
Or just,
I guess we succeed, but not very well is how we read it too, right? I guess you always succeed unless that failure die is involved.
Right. And you still succeeded, albeit
right.
The 2 stands. You're quite right. I think that he looks at you with despondent, horribly anxious, panicked eyes, well beyond the end of his rope, this man is. And he says to you, "Harriet, if I give this to you, do you promise you won't let them hurt me?"
I promise that I won't let them hurt you. What remains to be seen is whether or not you find it in yourself to do your duty as you came here to do.
He shakes his head in completely guarded self-protectiveness. Nothing will make me do that. Nothing. Take it. Just get this away from me. And he shoves the Lemurian diadem into your hands. And now let's call for that insight roll.
Saw that coming.
That would be Johnny's insight roll.
This is Harriet's.
This is my
Harriet.
deferred
Oh,
insight roll from a previous.
We've got a pile of deferred insight rolls.
Well, no, but I had a 6 recently. So.
All right.
Not this time.
You remember the vague unease that you felt whenever you pocketed the one crystal? The primal terror that arises within you holding a diadem made of countless crystals is utterly impossible to put into words. And yet, you haven't turned into a blathering cultist yet.
So I start to cry silently, and turning around, I carefully and slowly walk back to Dr. Schneider, and I say, please take this terrible thing away from me.
I'm not happy to, but
I
it is
understand,
necessary.
but it is all I can do, not to cast it away with all the force my arm can muster. So, as you treasure it, you should take it.
He will take it from you.
I have been privy to some strange rites and rituals, and I have seen bodies that have died of loathsome diseases, and I have seen parasites that would turn any ordinary person's stomach. And I have never felt anything like that.
Then you know the words I speak are true.
With absolute conviction.
He turns to Faber. Take him in. He motions to Ulrich, and Faber begins to advance with clear intent to subdue Ulrich, who begins screaming, "No, no, you promised, you promised."
Give it.
What was that, Harriet?
I say, don't hurt him more than you have to. He's drunk and he's frightened out of his mind.
Olivier, do you do anything here?
No, I'll say I'm sorry. I can't stop them.
Johnny?
Has been staring at this this item with a skeptical eye, and steps up to Dr. Schneider and holds out his hand and says, "May I?"
He's Dr. Schneider, I say, he has
I need to know.
had the same dream as I. And if you want another willing set of hands, well.
So, Johnny, what exactly are you offering here?
I would like to
Put your hand on the diadem.
I think I locked up for a second. Yeah, I would like to hold it.
I think you would have to convince him to let you. He's
I don't think I'm going to
understandably very
push it. I think
protective.
if he just says no, I'm going to accept the no.
I think that at this point, this is, I mean, in his mind at least, the literal fate of humanity rests on this thing. So he's not willing to let anyone touch it at this point. Unless, of course, you want to push for it.
I take Johnny's hand if he lets me. And I say, you're better off not.
I need to know though.
It is our dreams made. It is that strange, unnatural feeling that we have had, strong and loathsome.
I don't need to know now.
Then, in the absence of further intervention, Thomas will advance on Ulrich, and with a fair amount of righteous anger, albeit efficiently administered anger, he will beat Ulrich to the degree that he is not dead, but to the point that he is quite unable to escape or attempt any kind of retreat before tying him and dragging him to the Tenerife, assumedly with the rest of you, unless you have further business here.
Nope.
No.
All right. Well, in that case, we are halfway through on the dot. So let's take maybe 7 minutes. A little bit, yeah, halfway between 5 and 10. We'll come back at 7 past, and we will resume at that point.
Not that this number has any significance.
So at this point, Schneider is going to say that we need to make a go straight for Mount Lyell, where the ritual is supposed to take place. Now, he says, we need 4 who are willing to undergo the ritual. Myself and Thomas will be 2 of them. Ulrich can be a 3rd. He looks at the 3 of you plus Leon. And what should we do with you? Of course, he has his MP40 as he says this. Olivier, yes.
I was just going to say, I'm giving Johnny side eye again. But I don't say anything.
Yeah, Johnny also remains silent, assuming that the now converted Dr. Adams is probably going to volunteer.
Of course, we know nothing of the nature of the right that you speak. But if all you need is someone who is willing, then I will do it.
Leon says, but don't you have family? A husband? Anything?
Yes, I do. And I want them to have tomorrow. And a chance at an ordinary life. What kind of person would I be? To choose my own destiny at the cost of everyone I hold dear.
She is bright enough to realize quickly that there's no convincing you. At least not now.
I
Let's leave.
refuse. You feel it is inevitable. I refuse. I refuse to bow to that demon. Let the world take my life away if it must, but I will not sit back and let it be taken.
Let's leave the girl here, though. Sounds like she's just going to be.
She will strive to alert her people.
Yeah.
She has pretty much said as much.
Maybe we can lock her in a cabin or something. Is that possible, Dr. Schneider?
That is doable. So, despite her wills and protests, you can shove her into a cabin. Ulrich is only half conscious after the beating he's taken, so he makes no protest about any of this. It's going to be a long journey, Schneider tells you all. A few days overland. But between the 6 of us, or 7 rather, we should be able to make reasonably good time, especially without that girl dragging us down. I recommend we make camp a few kilometers inland and start off at first light tomorrow.
Very well.
So I think that we end the day with a lot of you taking what scant provisions you even have and beginning an inland march. The ground is rocky, made of sheets upon sheets of igneous rock. You pass one of the infamous Kerguelen cabbage fields as you walk. These strange smelling of death, self-pollinating plants. You stroll by them. But after some time, you were all able to get into the interior of the island. Large, looming mountains on all sides around you. And you make camp for the evening. Harriet, we will need one more insight roll from you as you dream again.
Before I go to sleep, I write 3 short letters. And I say, Olivier, in the event, should it happen that I do not emerge from here and you too, will you make some attempt to see that these go to their destinations?
Of course, Doctor. But don't speak. Let's all get out of here, okay? We're gonna see that this is all just craziness. I'm sure once you get there.
Maybe so. In which case, you can return the letters to me.
Okay.
And no harm
All right.
done. But I should dislike to have those I love think that they were not in my mind in my last moments.
And I agree. And then out of character, I think Brandon, maybe before you make this roll, do you want to like destroy a crystal or something to maybe get another chance to reduce your insight?
Crystal isn't evidence, really.
What else?
I
Well,
don't-
maybe we could, let's see.
No, there's only one other thing I could have destroyed, and I chose not to do it,
Okay.
which was Leon.
Mm,
Or the diadem.
The diadem
yeah,
is true.
Yeah.
And I couldn't bring myself to destroy either of those things. So
This is just a shot in the dark, but would there be any sort of like I don't know, like altars or anything. Not altars isn't quite the word I want. Like little I don't know, little signs of this strange religion or ancient culture or something along the way?
No,
Or
probably
probably
not.
not.
Probably
No.
not yet.
Okay. I try
So
to help.
no, it's appropriate. So I'm going to roll.
All right. That was as close as we could get to going mad as we can get, but no, you're still good to go. And the reason you roll this insight die is because you dream again, just as you did last night. We begin with the general sense of unease and paranoia, and then you experience the same burial dreams, nightmares of suffocation, entrapment, and panic. But this time it is even worse. This time you also awaken with a start, having these strange synesthetic visions. You are able to hear this strange tinnitus-like ringing when you look at the lamplight of your oil lantern. There is this strange piercing noise all around you that nobody else seems to hear, that with time almost seems to kind of modulate into a sort of scream. You stare, or if you were to pull the curtains, or not the curtains rather, but the flaps of your tent and look outward, you would find yourself soothed by the color black, particularly the black of the native rock upon which you have built your camp. There is a voice behind all the screaming, that you know, but it cannot be understood. You can't ascertain whether it is masculine, feminine, human. You can't ascertain the language, but the screaming and the voice is undeniable, as is the synesthetic vision. And I think it is that point, Harriet, that you hear a shot from a gun ring out in the darkness. And you hear a cry from Thomas. He was on watch and has evidently taken a bullet. Olivier and Johnny, you have awoken as well, but your first stop, Harriet. What do you do?
Besides give an involuntary shriek as I wake up.
There is a
the
blast of
sound-
red in your vision as you hear the gunshot, the senses blurring together.
I stagger up from my bedroll. And what do I see?
In your eyes, it's difficult to make out. There is little cloud cover, or there is little starlight given the cloud cover, but there are some very faint ambient rays of moonlight that have managed to penetrate through the overcast cloud cover.
I don't need eyes. I have ears.
Then you hear the crunching of one pair of footsteps approaching your camp.
What color is it?
A soothing deep blue.
Who's there?
The footsteps grow closer, but there is no reply.
Olivier, Johnny.
Olivier, how about you?
I'll rush over to Dr. Adams. And I probably don't, I'm not as fine-tuned or highly attuned to the sounds and stuff. So I'll just go to her and say, "What is it, Dr. Adams?"
Thomas was shot, and someone is approaching the camp. Their footsteps are below.
So I'll get real quiet, see if I hear it too.
Olivier, can you make a roll with the failure die to avoid being shot yourself?
Okay. Oh, I don't think my expertise would fit here. So I'll include my insight die
I was
though.
going to say you can add the insight die.
Yeah. So second one's insight, the third one's failure. So I fail badly. My best roll's 3-8. My insight doesn't go up though.
Insight does not go up, but
And you could re-roll your
Oh.
2 dice if you wanted.
that's
Yeah,
true. You can re-roll the whole pool if you so choose.
Oh,
True.
no.
Yeah, I better. I don't want to get shot. Okay, so now I don't get shot, but I do get a high insight. So I have to make an insight roll, right?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that now.
Okay. And I'm still okay.
You're still okay. Then in that case, you see the muzzle blast of a rifle in the darkness, and a bullet whizzes just shy of your head. Well, at least you know it's only one person approaching you. In the darkness, you faintly see the illumination of a man's face. He is, well, haggard, crazed. Clearly not on the side of the Germans. Johnny, how about you?
I'll yell out to Johnny. I'll be like, I have no knowledge of how to use a pistol. So I'll say, Johnny,
Yeah.
he's shooting at us.
Tell me what you think about this. What if the reason that the shot failed is because I was like right sneaking up behind him and was able to like begin trying to grapple the gun from him. And so the action that I would like is basically a tug of war with the gun to try and disarm the assailant.
I did get a 6, so maybe that gives him, an extra angle maybe to get in there.
I'm all right with that, Johnny, if you so choose. Let's go ahead and have you roll, certainly with your failure die.
Oh yeah.
See if you can wrestle away this weapon.
Falls within professional capacity, I think.
It kind of does, yeah. I feel like I created a civilian warrior sometimes, but
Well, we established that you're involved with the rough trade a lot.
Yeah, this is Johnny is the one little bit of pulp we have in an otherwise very bleak story.
Yeah. I will include that insight die as well. So that would be 4 die.
Okay, we'll say insight is second to last, and okay.
So your die is last, and you succeeded.
Yeah, no, there's no concern there.
Insight.
So you said that your goal is to wrestle away the rifle. Can you describe how that goes?
Yeah, so the first thing I do is like he thinks he's got that shot lined up, and like seconds before he pulls the trigger, I'm able to just lunge out of the shadows, pushing the rifle out of alignment, grabbing over both his front hand and his trigger hand, locking the trigger down so that he can't get another shot off if these things do multiple shots. And I think what I would like to do is pull it away enough that he starts yanking on it himself, and then like smack him in the head with the butt of the rifle, disarming him and giving me a chance to level the rifle on him and say, "Not so fast. Who are you?"
It's difficult to make features out in the very, very dim light under which this fight is occurring. I think he is going to, unless you make an effort to shoot him non-lethally or otherwise tackle him or something, I think he's going to make an effort to just leave the gun with you and run into the dark.
He gets shot.
Where do you shoot him?
In the back.
That will probably kill him.
Okay.
He's quite dead.
All right.
Let's make that the trigger for that insight roll that you've had sitting on the shelf for a little while. I think killing someone will do that.
Sounds good. That is a 2.
Okay. Well, Olivier and Harriet, you've got Johnny having just killed this guy with his own rifle. Thomas does not look like he's doing well, though. He's taken a solid body shot, and someone will need to first aid him to keep him from dying here in the middle of the kind of plateau, the valley where you guys have found yourselves. So, Harriet, what do you do?
My instinct is to try to help him. I don't think I mean, I've probably done some jack-leg first aid before, but this is beyond. Gunshot wounds are not in my purview.
You can still try.
I'll still try.
There will be a failure die involved because he very well could die.
All right, so.
But you're a doctor.
I am a doctor, but if insects were involved, it would be a different matter.
She's not the kind of doctor who helps.
Even animal bite. Even if it were an animal bite, I might be able to, to call it. But it's a gunshot. It's the people are the only animal that I don't study. Okay, it looks like a big failure.
So he'll die here unless you throw that insight die in there and re-roll.
That's what I'm going to do.
Oh boy.
So these next two rolls are my replacement die and the insight die.
Okay, we'll say failure die's the.
And I bingoed the inside die.
Okay.
Well, good news. Good news is that I succeeded.
Yeah. There's no need to roll the failure die again.
Yeah, I can't roll higher than 6.
Can't roll higher than a 6. So good news is you will save him. You will need to make an insight roll, however.
Yes. His wound is shrieking. As I see the red blood coming out, it is like the wail of a distressed soul. And I am trying to stop up the hole in it to make that awful sound. Halt.
You're still holding on.
I'm going to say that as close as those things have been, the synesthesia stays with me.
So I'm going to go to Schneider. I'm going to say, look, I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but you said something about you need the blood of 5 people. Could you take the blood of that guy? Would that count? Could that save Dr. Adams from your ritual?
You see Johnny just drop the rifle and just start shaking and fall into a blubbering mass. Killing someone is not something that Johnny does regularly.
Schneider shakes his head gravely. No, they must die under very specific circumstances in a ritual offering to the god. The thing has been offered many things. We've tried offering it sheep, seals, birds, corpses, he says, motioning to the dead body. No, the only thing that stops it is well, fresh blood, murder, suicide, things of that sort of nature, human lives.
Harriet goes, oh, they were making offerings. That's why they tried to kill us. That's why they killed themselves.
And they were happy about it.
They were making offerings not to try to put it to sleep, but because they wanted to please it.
It's a twisted and perverted form of worship, but it is worship nonetheless.
The wound, I've patched up your friend, and his wound is no longer screaming so loudly. And if it were a consideration, I would say that he's likely to die after a certain period of time, but I think he won't have that opportunity. And he'll be at least able to take part.
Thomas looks at you with enormous alarm when you mention his screaming wound.
I'm sorry, your voice is gray with streaks of purple in it. And I wish I knew what that meant. Something seems to have happened to my eyes and ears. I'm sorry, I don't mean to alarm anyone. But all the sounds have colors, and all the colors have noises or music. It's not all distressing. It's very disorienting. The fellow who was coming, his footsteps were blue and calm. It was that same blue that was in De La Rue's eyes and the sky.
Dr. Adams, why don't you sit down for a little while? I think this is
Of course. I had a terrible dream last night. Again, suffocating. It was the worst dream I've ever had. And it seems to have affected my senses. I have colleagues who would be extraordinarily interested in interviewing me at this time. Isn't that funny? I'm a scientific curiosity. Acquired synesthesia. It's almost unheard of. All the synesthetics I've ever heard of were born with it.
So I'll go to Schneider and I'll say, look, we should move. There's noise and one of them found us. There's got to be more, right? We should pack up and get out of here now.
We can't travel at night. They know this place better than we do.
Yeah,
we'll just have to be on guard.
No, I think we should move. I think the doctor here knows the way, don't you, doctor?
I do. I mean, there is a possibility that we'll get off track, but you can only get lost so much out here. Are you okay? He says, looking to Johnny.
Oh, Johnny, you're you're all bad shades of green and yellow.
Johnny mutters under his breath. I told him not to run. I told him not to run.
They are persuaded that they are doing a good thing, Johnny. This thing has twisted their minds. Whatever it is.
Johnny gets up and you can see his legs are very shaky, and he kind of zombie walks back to wherever he's sleeping, or wherever he chooses to sleep right now, and says, yeah, I'm okay.
I like your voice, Johnny. It's kind of an orange with little tints of violet.
That doesn't even make sense.
Synesthesia doesn't make sense. It just is.
And he just wanders away.
And I think that you proceed from that point. The next few days are passed, walking further and further inland. The further in you go, the higher the mountains seem to become, and the more numerous they appear. Along the way, you will find what actually happened to the sheep that the men were out tending. They have all been slaughtered, not for mutton or anything along those lines, but rather in a ritual circle. But they've been dead for some time. The rain has fallen, and they are all kind of a limp gray color, having been soaked so thoroughly. The wind, unrelenting, continues to howl, putting that constant scream in Harriet's ears. Would anyone like to have a scene with another character or to themselves before we get to the final scene?
I think I've gotten in the habit of like being by Dr. Adams, but I've stopped actually talking to her because I don't want to hear her talking about, colors and spells, and it's
She subsides.
I want to keep my head in the sand. So I don't want to hear it from her anymore. So I want to be there for her.
She subsides in mentioning the colors of everything. Mostly after that first bit, when it was so bizarre and strange to her. Now it's just what things are. It's like these horrible winds or black streaks, diagonal black streaks. But she doesn't say that. That would be tiresome.
Just for fun, at the side of the ritual circle of murdered sheep, and we're talking literally 100 sheep, maybe I would like to have Olivier and Johnny make an insight roll here. I feel like this is below the threshold of Harriet's sanity. I don't think that you have any surprise or difficulty, but I'd like to get Olivier and Johnny to roll insight here.
All right, go ahead. I'll go after you.
So that's just 1d6 for insight,
Just
right?
a single d6, and if it's above your current insight, it goes up.
It is a 6.
I'm still cool.
So, Johnny, does that put you to 5?
That does put me to 5.
Okay. Can you describe how seeing a field of dead sheep, throats cut, impacts you?
I
It
think
must have taken well over an hour to get through all of them.
I think it's more than just the throats cut. I think they have strewn entrails about, and it is just a mess. And it actually, like, when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, that's disgusting. Those are sheep." And then it's like I see just the same scene, but just strewn with people like the one that I murdered last night. And it's like, I'm part of this, I'm creating this. And then I look again and it's like, they're just sheep. It's them, it's not me. It's kind of this internal conflict.
And it's made so much harder with all these intrusive thoughts of the sounds they must have made, crying out one by one.
And Olivier, do you still have your flask?
Yeah.
Hold out my hand.
Yeah, I'll hand it over.
Glug, 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 glug.
Any other scenes that people would like to have before we get set up for the finale? Then I will briefly describe the environs surrounding Mount Lyell. To begin, the whole place is situated into a protected valley. I mean, at this point, you are several days deep into the interior of the island. I mean, even if you do survive, the question of how you will extract yourself and get back to the coast on the provisions that you have is it weighs heavy on those of you who have some hope of survival. The place is mired in quicksand, steaming, bubbling, hot springs all about. The whole thing is just a toxic smelling, vomitous mess of glacial swamp. Unlike literally everywhere else you have been at this point, there is no moss or lichen around. And for the first time, no wind blows. It is eerily quiet, and you can hear the crunching of rock sheets beneath your feet as you walk. As you get further up against the mountain, you will find what looks like a natural amphitheater tucked into the north face of the mountain. Very inaccessible, blocked by tall crags in all directions, the entire area, irrespective of time of day, blanketed in near perpetual shadow. At this point, the mountainside is kind of peppered with these sort of spikes, these towering pinnacles of trap rocks sticking out, jutting from the cliffs at strange angles. I mean, just getting up to this amphitheater is going to be difficult. But Schneider tells you that atop that cliff in that amphitheater lies an old, incomprehensibly ancient Lemurian temple. We're going to have to climb this, though. Can I ask the three of you to help us? And they begin to kind of unpack equipment to sort of dig into the cliffside. And, you know, I mean, you're not climbing a sheer face necessarily, but it's going to be a large back and forth switchback kind of climb that's going to take quite a while.
Are there pitons involved regardless?
I think
The
that's safe
metal
to say.
spikes that's cool.
This is familiar territory for Harriet.
It would be.
She's not a mountaineer, but there's plenty of places of You have to do a fair amount of crag climbing to get into places where nondescript things are, because the well-traveled paths are not them. So yes.
And I wonder if climbing the rigging a lot would help me here.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. Well, you know all about tying ropes for
Sure.
certain.
You want us to roll on this one, David?
Oh, I was muted. Yeah, that would be fine. I think that the two of you actually, it's funny, you don't see this in Cthulhu games very often, but the two of you are actually skilled outdoorsmen. So you actually, by all means, you can both roll and take the highest of the two of yours, and you both get your proficiency die. I will ask one of you also to add a failure die, though, just to make it interesting.
Okay, so I'm going to roll 2, but I'll add the failure die, Brandon.
Sure.
And I guess you're rolling 2. I'm not going to include my insight die, so the third die is a failure for me. Looks like I got a 5 high. I'm good.
And I got a 4.
So I guess the
Five,
5
so-
counts.
Yeah, and that's
5 counts, and no
that's
one got a
perfect.
6.
Yep. You don't want the 6, and 5 gets you everything you could possibly want from it. So I think the two of you working together in conjunction with the rest of the team are able to make it up the cliffside. I mean, at this point, Thomas is beginning to fade. I mean, it's been a few days since he took the bullet wound, and while you have been able to prevent him from bleeding to death and succumbing to internal injuries, it's probably starting to get infected, and he is unable to really assist in much of the way of physical help. So he will come up last, I think. And as you get to the top, you'll gaze upon the temple. This thing is unlike any temple you've ever seen before in your travels, Harriet. Built on a wide ledge, this old Lemurian temple consists of level ground. Shards of crystal litter the entire area. I mean, dump out the metal box with all those crystals in it and pretend that was just done in a 50-yard radius, just crystals everywhere. You can't take a step without walking on one of these horrid things. There are desiccated, scattered debris of previous expeditions made by the Black Drop Society. The wind, as I said, has stopped, and yet the air is somehow heavier, thicker, and more oppressive. The temple itself is made up of something of a complex. There are 6 strangely aligned and ornately carved pillars ringing a black stone. And this is not merely a crude sacrificial slab. This stone that sits in between the 6 pillars is a true altar in the most genuine sense of the word. And yet it has been built for something well outside human scale. Whatever this altar was made by or made for was much, much larger than a person. And before it is a steaming crack in the earth that smells like death. It is abundantly clear that the structure does not belong here, that it is an aberration completely unaccounted for in the established history of the world. And overhead, you see a bright light in the sky. I imagine it is about dusk at this point. You see the planet Venus crawling its way towards a star that it is expected to cross in front of.
Transit.
Yes.
We're barely in time.
Olivier, can I get an insight roll
Did
from
this-
you?
Did this come from Venus? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Brandon. Olivier, this is one of the
It finally goes up.
It finally goes up. Okay. I was going to say this is one of the least Christian things you have ever come across in your life. So your insight is at 4 now? Well, Schneider says, I suppose it's time. And he begins to walk toward the altar. Dr. Adams, come along.
I'll grab her arm. I say, Dr. Adams, don't do this. There's no reason. This is craziness. Johnny, help me out.
It is, I would have agreed with you prior to the events of the last few days. But I don't know. It is mad, but it seems that the world is crazy. And if the only way we have to keep it safe is to abandon everything we've always understood to be true, then
Think about these people you wrote these letters to. We can get back to them. We don't have to do this. All we need is, I bet the ship will be back by the time we get back to shore.
if this is a tissue of fantasy, then nothing's going to happen. But you know that's not the case.
They're going to have you kill yourself, and then nothing will happen. You'll just be dead.
They're going to die too. All of them except one. Do you think that they would do that just because of a story? Can you look at this place? Can you stand in this place and tell me that the world as you knew it makes any sense anymore? Thank you, Olivier. You're a good person. And I really hope you make it back home.
I'll take my arm away and I'll let her go.
So the 5 of you, Harriet, Schneider, Mulder, Faber, and the screaming at this point, beginning to wail and struggle, form of Ulrich, will walk, or in Ulrich's case, be dragged, struggling, toward the base of the altar, where the steaming crack in the rock lies. Johnny, can I get you to make a roll to see if you notice something?
I kind of feel like noticing things is and I will, should I throw the insight on it? I don't know. I'm so close now.
Do it.
Okay, got it.
If not now, when?
Right.
You could destroy something here beforehand, try to reduce your insight.
Yeah.
No.
Or you can just go for it.
Yeah, we're all
go
in.
for it.
It's fine.
All right.
There was 3 dice, right? With the yep. That is a 5.
A success with no insight roll.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how a 5 is actually the best roll in the game sometimes.
Even here, in this blasphemous place with that horrid planet glaring down at us, timing at the end of the world, running down the timer to the end of the world, you can coolly stand back and reflect carefully on what's happening.
And I think that means I'm a non-believer. I am letting you do what you want to do, but no, none of this is real.
Well, Johnny, your detective, private investigator eyes have served you well here for stepping out from behind one of the nearby columns. Still with quite a bit of cover. Difficult to shoot from where you're standing, but no less there. You see Adele. She carries two things, one in each hand. In her right non-dominant hand, she carries the same revolver. In her left, how curious, you wonder to yourself, where did she get a stick of dynamite? And then you see, oh, yes, that is unquestionably and very unfortunately Edgar Delarue's head with a bullet through it hanging off of her belt. She must have taken it from his pack. She appears to be this close to throwing a stick and eliminating the entire expedition.
This close. So the question is, do I take the shot, or is she far enough away that I can move to intercept before having to try to take the shot? When you say this close, how close is this close?
Oh, when I say this close, I mean that figuratively. I mean, she's what I just mean is she's very, very close. She's about to do something.
She's lighting the stick. She's lighting the stick of dynamite.
So if I would like to yell, Olivier, with me, and just take off running towards her with the rifle. And the second that I think that I can subdue her, man, I don't want to get that close. Shooter. As soon as I think I have a shot, I'm going to stop and try and take a shot.
I think that you can certainly do that.
Yeah.
She is going to take a shot at you from cover, though, before you're able to get one off at her.
Yeah.
Olivier, are you going to try to cover Johnny, or are you going to let Johnny take the shot coming from Adele?
It's pretty action movie, so tell me if it doesn't work, but I want to take the marlin spike and throw it, throw through her hand. So maybe she drops the dynamite, and depending on how the dice go, blows herself up. Maybe not all of the rest of us, maybe most of us. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But that's what I'd like to try to do.
You can do that after she takes her shot at me.
Yeah, she's in cover enough to prevent somebody from shooting at her.
So maybe I'm trying to move around at a different angle to get in position to do my throwing the marlin spike move.
That sounds reasonable to me. So if I understand correctly, then I just want to make sure. It sounds like the shot is going to be headed at Johnny?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what we'll do. I'm just trying to think of whether we want to split this up into two separate roles or not.
We could cooperate. Just do
it's possible. There's the possibility of a pyrrhic outcome, right? Where Johnny gets shot, but still Olivier, prevents her. So you really have to make it. It almost sounds like you have to be two wrestlers.
That's a good point. It's not like either one person gets shot or they don't. Both people could get shot. It could go badly for everyone. So in that case, Johnny, can I have you make a roll to simply avoid being shot?
I know that Johnny's streetwise, but I think this is more battlefield-like terrain, so I don't think that expertise adds a die.
You're rushing someone at point blank range who's got a gun pointed at you. There's only so much you can do.
Yep. I will use that insight die. And should I add a failure die? Of course.
Oh yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Failure die will be last, and insight will be second to last.
Ew.
Oh.
You didn't fail. You
Did not fail.
You succeeded.
Insight is
Yeah.
high though, and I think this is a great time to roll insight and hope you don't get a 6
How about a 2?
to keep you together.
Great.
So now, please describe how you are able to either dodge that shot or at least take it in an area that isn't going to immediately incapacitate you.
It's in her non-dominant hand, right?
That's right. She's holding the dynamite in her dominant hand.
So I think that it looks really bad, but she pulls the trigger like 2 or 3 times, and she just has never done any sort of training or anything with her non-dominant hand. And you just see bullets ricocheting off of stones to my left. She's always off to the left-hand side. So really just incompetence is how I describe that.
Sure. Let's have you and Olivier cooperate to deal with her as you see fit. And one of you please add a failure die.
All right. I will add the failure die. I feel like I'm out in the front. If there's failure to be had, it's probably mine.
Are you still rolling insight?
I'm still rolling insight, and I'm shooting a rifle, which is not my normal sleuthing weapon, so I'm not rolling a die for my
Expertise.
career.
Last time I did use expertise with the Marlin spike. Do I still use it here?
I see no reason to say no.
Okay. And I will include my insight die. You're rolling the failure die, Johnny?
I did, yeah.
Okay. So
Failure
no
dice a
failure.
1.
That's a 3 high.
And so you all are going to succeed with a 6.
Right.
But Olivier is going to get to roll.
Yes. So you are going to succeed very effectively. Olivier, you'll probably need to roll insight here, but let's first describe how you deal with Adele.
I like the idea that there's like this gunfight going on and everyone's like adrenaline is just spiked and no one's hitting anyone because we're both just like freaked out. And then Olivier comes in and does what Olivier does.
What I would have with a 6 of success would be, like I said, I get around her side because she's shooting at Johnny. I throw the Marlin spike through her hand. She drops the sizzling, dynamite to her feet, and it explodes and blows up a bunch of the temple, probably, but not us, hopefully.
It will, I mean, 2 things. One, Harriet, I would love to hear how the sound of dynamite looks synesthetically. 2, it'll definitely bring down the pillar she's standing next to, and it is going to fall very close to Harriet. You will probably, Harriet, need to make a roll to not be crushed.
The sound of dynamite is a towering pillar of red flame, topped with black, with sort of flashing black spots, which are the sort of the boom and then the after crackle that does, and the red slowly fades to orange, yellow, and then goes out. And I will try to dodge the pillar, and who knows, perhaps, and this perhaps is why, Olivier had to make an insight roll, probably bits of Adele. So I'll roll insight and failure. because I just can't see doing otherwise in this place. Actually, I'll just roll that and failure, and we'll see if I end up rolling an insight die in my roll. I think that makes more sense since this is not intentional. It looks like I'm going to have to roll again. So we roll a failure die as well, yes?
Yes. You can continue re-rolling.
That's still, if I don't have a reason not to, that's still a failure. That is
That'll
not
play.
a failure. That's
No.
not a failure. It is, however,
Insight.
peril worthy.
Yes.
I'm going to modify my, given the fact that I rolled what I did there. The pillar comes down, and as I step, and I realize it's about to come down, and step back just in time, and just where the pillar was in my field of view is the planet Venus in the sky, which glares down at me balefully, as if to say, this is your time.
I'll leave it to you whether you want to say that calls for an insight roll. You did get a 6, but it wasn't on your insight die, and it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I thought a 6 always called for an insight roll.
I'd have to double check the rules. I think that it can.
Okay.
I think that the way you've described things is good. If you think an insight roll would be a dramatically appropriate thing to put here, then I'm all for it.
I'm not necessarily going to do it. I think actually Harriet's gone insane at this point. She just hasn't lost her mind. I'm she just hasn't, she's just holding it together. She looks up at Venus and she says, "You may kill me, but not that way."
I think there is a sort of getting everyone's bearings back together after that. But at this point, the ritual is able to proceed.
And
Now-
I'm going to add just a grisly thing that she picks up Adele's head from where it has landed, and she tosses it to one side. She says, let's not have this filthy thing in here. It might disturb our concentration. And she just flings it over to one side as if it was a piece of trash.
The way that this ritual is supposed to go, and Schneider tells you this, is that each of the, shall we say, volunteers, Ulrich is not volunteering, is to be injected with a sedative, at which point Schneider will put on the Lemurian diadem. And when the stars align correctly, he will begin cutting throats. And doing so will summon the god of the Black Stone. But if it can be held in the temple for about a minute or so until the transit of Venus has passed, it will be trapped for another 30 years. Harriet, I'll leave it to you to decide if volunteering for ritual suicide would be enough of a strain on her psyche at this point as to call for an insight roll, or whether you think we should just say that you're in a psychological state to allow for that without much resistance.
I think Harriet says, I don't need the sedative. And she composes herself at the end.
Olivier, what are you up to? What's going through your head as they begin injections and preparing to, well, get five suicides here in front of the occult ancient altar?
I think Olivier was pretty close to the explosion. So I don't know if you guys have seen it, but in Saving Private Ryan, there's a part where I think it's right in the beginning when they go on Omaha Beach where there's an explosion nearby and he's all like foggy and his ears are ringing. So I think that's Olivier's state right now. So he kind of sees this happening, but it's like, you know, it's like in another body. He's having an out of body experience a little bit for a moment. So yeah, I'm stunned basically. Yeah.
Johnny, same question directed toward you.
Yeah, I think Johnny is on patrol. It's like, oh crap, what else could go wrong out here? And starts looking at bushes very suspiciously and just like they could be out there anywhere.
And as you go about your patrol and Olivier just tries to recover, Schneider will make the first killing, and he'll start with Ulrich, probably for strategic reasons as much as personal ones. And it's at this time that everyone notices a significant shift in your respective experiences of reality. All of you, and I think this is especially palpable for Harriet, the sedatives aside, you'll notice that the atmospheric pressure will drop and ozone will sting your nostrils. There is this sensation of terrible disconnectedness, as if one was having time race by them in a fever dream. The temple itself will begin to warp at hard, incalculable angles, bringing with it this screeching tinnitus that then springs back into a comfortably normal configuration and then snaps back again in this vomit-inducing whiplash of space-time. The vertigo is awful. A hard, wind-lashed rain will begin to assault you in these cold, terrifying, just caustic sheets. Overhead, you see the star and Venus colliding together, bright as can be despite the downpour. And then this is the part where, true to prophecy, the god of the Black Stone forces its way. It forces its way through some terrible energetic fold released by the transit of Venus. The high-pitched keening that accompanies it hovers at the threshold of your hearing, seemingly composed of impossible chords, notes that don't correspond to frequency so much as some unspeakable wavelength of emptiness. This god, if it is such a thing, is something huge, something invisible. You can't see it exactly as you look up into the just drenched with rain sky, but you can make out fat droplets of rain smashing against some kind of irregular surface, painting its upper half in a strange and odd iridescence. It is, just as Schneider said, this jagged, awful monolith, like a pile of glass in a demolished building, something so fundamentally opposed to life and reason that it is impossible to look upon without turning away. It radiates from it this rapacious hunger that is as obscene as it is terrifying, like a void that must be filled, this death craving force as unstoppable as gravity itself. I will need all three of you to make an insight roll.
I'll go last. Go ahead, guys. All right. I'm up to 5 now.
Right.
Everyone's at 5.
Everyone's at 5. Harriet, I think that's the third 5 you've rolled on an insight die for with death on the line.
I maintain that Harriet rolled a 6 and it's just holding it together very well.
As this all happens, Schneider, with grim composure, having seen this before, will go through and having taken Ulrich's life, he moves to Thomas, and then he stands before you, Harriet. I will leave it to you to narrate your death.
Harriet goes, let me put one, the least I can do is put one fewer deaths on your soul. She unfolds her razor and opens the artery on one side of her throat. She says, this isn't the worst way to go. And then she says, don't forget, Olivier, you promised. And then she passes out and bleeds to death.
And I think Olivier at this point sees like green and blue and yellow coming from her body, you know, rather than the blood.
And at that time, Schneider will turn the knife on himself. He falls to the ground and within a matter of minutes will be dead as well. After which point the rain will subside. The black drop effect, so clearly visible in the sky, will pass as Venus makes its transit, and the sky will begin to clear into a piercing and lurid bluish, orangish, pinkish, reddish sunset, profane and piercing to your eyes. The three survivors, Olivier, Johnny, and Mr. Mueller, stand amidst the significantly more ruined and blood-soaked Lemurian temple. And I think that is where we will close. Would Olivier and Johnny perhaps like to do some epilogues?
Sure.
I'll give people a minute to think if they haven't thought of one already, but whenever you're ready, feel free to unmute and go ahead.
I see us back, like hiking back to the shoreline, and what's the boat's name? The Austral is there. And there's a launch has come to the shore to pick us up, and I see those letters, and I see like one of them has popped open, and I can't help myself but to look at it and pull it out. And if Brandon, if it works for you, I look at it and it's just like wild ranting. It's like evidence that you already were nuts when you wrote it. It's all about blue and colors.
I think we don't see what's in it. We just see Olivier's expression when you read it, which is horror. It's just, maybe it drops from your nerveless fingers or something.
Right. Maybe I get on the boat and then I just let it kind of like, I let them go into the water, they float away.
I think it doesn't matter the investigation, so I'm not going to do any sort of epilogue for the investigation that brought me out. I do think that we have like a scene where Johnny is sitting on a chaise and just like explaining things fairly frantically to some sort of a psychoanalyst who's trying to help him process everything that he's witnessed. And the paperwork at the desk is like admittance to some sort of long-term care facility against patient will, signed Dr. So-and-so.
Probably a lobotomy involved, right?
Yeah.
At least electroshock. Yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, I am okay with going ahead and closing here. If you feel, Harriet, like you had enough of an exit earlier, do you feel like there's anything you'd like to add as an epilogue for Harriet, or?
No, I feel like one of you should read her obituary in the newspaper and have a reaction. That just sums up her scientific things and her, unfortunate death due to, to exposure.
Who
I
was
think
she?
it probably says, so she's written up in the, or society, in the says that a memorial will be held at the American Naturalist Society in New York, and
Right.
I think Johnny definitely gets newspapers wherever he's staying now, under supervision, of course, and he snips it out and brings it to, they got to have regular meetings with whoever's evaluating him. And he's like, no, they got it all wrong. You can see it right here. This is not what happened.
And with those epilogues having been narrated, we will go ahead and close out here. I will end the recording, and thanks to everyone for playing. We'll do some stars and wishes off camera. Take care, everybody.